Now, the Ian Jessop Show.
A few years ago, Corrie Yelland was diagnosed with cancer. Her doctor recommended radiation, and if she didn't, she had 6 months to live at the most. She didn't have the radiation, instead opting for cannabis oil, and is here today to tell her story. Thanks for coming in, Corrie.
Well, thank you for having me.
Now, I should say that nothing said during this interview should be construed as medical advice.
True.
Okay. Tell me your story right from the beginning.
In July of 2011, I was diagnosed with anal canal cancer.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cancer that took Farrah Fawcett's life. I already had a very compromised quality of life due to post-sternotomy syndrome, so I was in constant pain.
What's it, post?
Sternotomy syndrome from open heart surgery.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't have a very good quality of life already. So when I was hit with this whammy, it was like huge. So I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I took 2 people with me and I went to the cancer clinic, and they said, well, this is the worst part of the body to treat. And they were very matter of fact about it. You can have 2nd and 3rd degree burns vaginally, rectally, perianally. We're going to hit your coccyx and your pubic bone. We'll try not to hit your spine. And then he said, oh, yes, and your vagina will probably fuse shut. And your rectum will probably fuse shut too, but don't you worry about that. We'll just take you upstairs and dilate you. And I remember thinking, I don't freaking think so. It just seems so barbaric. And I didn't get any straight answers on long-term side effects when I kept asking, and also on pain control. And found out long time after the fact that they didn't even think that radiation was going to work for me. So when I asked him, or not told him actually, that I just wanted some time to think about this, he got up and walked out of the room and muttered just something about me having 2 to 4 months and having a death wish, and left. And we sat there for a couple of minutes, and then my friend looked at me and said, well, I guess we're done here. So we went upstairs to the library, and there's not a lot out there on anal canal cancer. There's a lot on colorectal. That's an adenocarcinoma. This was a squamous cell. But the little that was out there said that the number 1 killer of anal canal cancer is radiation. So I'm thinking, let me get this straight. You want to radiate me to kill the cancer to what? Give me more cancer? So I went home, and I really didn't know what I was going to do. And I started talking with a woman in Texas who had the same thing as me, and she had been diagnosed at the same time, et cetera, and we were going back and forth. And my sister sent me a video called Run from the Cure. For many years, I worked with cancer patients coming from a holistic vein, terminally ill cancer patients and their families. So I thought that I knew everything there was to know about, curing cancer or alternative methods.
That was from a fellow in Nova Scotia that put that together.
Yeah, Rick Simpson.
Yeah.
And I could see it was an hour long, so it took me forever to watch it. And then my sister phoned and said, have you watched it? And I'm like, no. And so I just sat down and watched. I thought I'll watch 10 minutes a day just to get her off my back. And I sat down, I watched the first 10 minutes, and I went, whoa. And I watched the whole video, and then I watched it again. And it just completely made sense to me. So I phoned a doctor friend of mine in Italy, who's known worldwide, and said, Daniela, what do you know about this? And he's like, oh, Corrie, we've been treating cancer with cannabinoids for years here. So for the next 2 or 3 weeks, that's all I did was research day in, day out. And at the end of that time, decided that if anything was going to save my life, it was going to be this. So I went to my doctor and asked for a prescription for medical cannabis, and was told that she didn't believe in it. I had 2 GPs that shared an office, and it was against her religion. I think she's Baha'i. And that was kind of a door shutting there. So then I went to a different dispensary.
She was against giving you a prescription for cannabis oil, but would give you radiation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Continue. Sorry.
So then I went to my surgeon, because I had to go see him anyway, as a follow-up, because he was the one that had done the diagnostic surgery. And so when I went to see him, I asked him about it, and he said, I just don't know enough about it. And so I talked to him for 10 or 15 minutes about what I'd seen in this video, et cetera. And at the end of it, he got up and walked across the room and got down on one knee and took my hands in his and said, I want you to know I support you 100% in this. So it was really good to have his backing.
Oh, yeah.
So I went down to the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club, and I had my records indicating that I had cancer, and I got signed on there. And I thought, okay, now we can begin. And went up to the counter and said, yes, I'd like to buy some cannabis oil. And they said, we don't have it. And I remember this utter desperation going, what do you mean you don't have it? And they said, we don't carry that. And so it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? So I ended up making my own with a couple of friends. I was on disability at the time. Well, actually, I still am. And so I didn't have a lot of money, and my friends donated money. And we'd get a little bit of cannabis at a time and make this oil.
So you made your own oil.
Yeah.
Is it hard to do?
No, it's, you know, you have to pay attention to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But no, it's not hard to do.
How do you know about the levels of THC in it?
I didn't. I was just hoping that I was buying good quality. I knew to buy indica strains or indica dominant so that you don't get wired. Sativa is really wiring.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything about cannabis, okay? I'm the woman who, you know, when she was 19, smoked the odd joint and got totally paranoid and wrote it off. I'm not anti-cannabis for recreational smokers. It just wasn't my gig.
Yeah.
You know? So, I mean, just the idea of doing cannabis alone was a pretty big mountain.
So you made your own cannabis oil. What next?
Started taking it, and within 2 weeks, my pain level had totally dropped, like by a country mile. I was on 10 to 15 Tylenol 3s, morphine, dilaudid, opium, you name it, to half a Tylenol 3 in 2 weeks, which I didn't even think would be, you know, Spinoff hadn't even considered that.
Yeah, you were a bit of a mess when you started, weren't you? I mean, I hate to say that.
I was a huge mess.
Yeah.
Once I got better, I had people walk by me on the street and they didn't even recognize me, friends of mine, you know. So I started doing the oil, and
sorry to interrupt. How did you take the oil? Did you put it under your tongue, or?
I put it on a little piece of bread, tiny little bread crumb, and you start out with a very, very small amount, like the size of a half a grain of short grain rice. So we're talking minute.
Oh, okay.
And you take that for 3 or 4 days, and then you slowly start upping that dosage.
Just once a day?
No, 3 times a day.
Okay.
So, you know, you're pretty tired at first when you're doing it, but your body becomes accustomed to it. And then what you want to do, the guideline is you want to try and ingest 60 grams in 90 days.
60 grams in 90 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
You work up to that protocol. So I started taking more and more. And then I found I was starting to get paranoid, which is why I didn't want to do it in the first place, you know, that anxiety. And I happened to be talking to Dr. Janet Sweeney of the Phoenix Tears Foundation, and she said, well, I'm glad you're doing so well, but how come you're not taking more? And I said, well, because I get so paranoid. She said, oh, you need citicoline. So citicoline is a natural supplement for mental clarity, but what it does is it blocks the receptors that cause anxiety and paranoia. And she said it won't stop you from getting high, but you won't care.
Oh, acetylcholine, which you can buy in the health food store, right?
Yeah, no, it's not the same as acetylcholine.
Oh.
No, Citicoline.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah.
Acetylcholine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Citicoline.
Citicoline.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So then I started upping doses more, and then I started doing suppositories as well of
Yeah.
it. In 90% of cases, people who do suppositories don't get high. I wasn't one of them, but
Yeah.
in 90% of cases, you don't. And did this. I didn't get up to the gram a day. I have to be really clear. I didn't get up to the gram a day. I got up to maybe at most 3/4 of a gram. So I didn't go back to the doctor for a year because I knew in my head, I thought I knew, that it was still there. And so I finally went to the doctor and my specialist, and he examined me once, and he got a weird look on his face, and then he examined me again, and then he had a student doctor there, and he had her check me out, and then he said, it's gone. It's completely gone. He said, he said, there's not even any scarring. And he said, I would have never known that you had cancer. And he said, but, you know, we want to be clear, you know, just be really sure. So we're going to take you into the OR and do some biopsies. And so even then I'm thinking, okay, well, there's still going to be a few little mutant cells because I didn't get up to that level that I should have gotten up to. And he walked into the office when I came back for the report and had a piece of paper in his hand and said, congratulations. And I'm like, what do you mean? He said, congratulations, read it. You are 100% cancer-free. No dysplasia, nothing. Nothing.
Wow.
Completely cancer-free.
And he knew you were taking cannabis oil?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, my GP, who originally didn't want to know anything about it and literally covered his ears and went la 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 la, has done a 180. He's like, cannabinoids are amazing, Corrie. Do you know how many people we kill each day with pharmaceuticals?
Does he say that?
He actually said that to me, yes.
Well, good for him for coming around. Let's go to the phones and talk to Josephine, who's been waiting. Hi, Josephine.
Hello. I was going to say that is wonderful. My neighbor, who is a great user of the oil, cured her breast cancer with it, and the doctors just could not believe, because the same thing, they didn't want to hear about it. She used it, and she is cancer-free. But what else she used the oil for was shingles. She got shingles. She rubbed the oil on it, on the shingles faithfully, and guess what? Within days, the shingles were gone.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. How did she take the oil for her breast cancer?
I think it was in the capsules. Okay. I don't know everything about it, but she would come over in the morning, and she would be taking her oils and everything else. And if it ever happened to me, I'd be the first one using the oils myself.
Right on, Josephine.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks, Josephine.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
I appreciate it. Now, you mentioned earlier about the woman in Texas you had a conversation with. What happened to her?
We continued to communicate, and she decided to do radiation. And then I didn't hear from her for a long time. And at Christmas, I got an email. I could see it was from her. And I opened it up, and it wasn't from her. It was from her husband. And she had died of infection to radiation burns and left behind a 12-year-old daughter. So that really hit home.
Yeah. Corrie Yelland is our guest. She's a cancer survivor. She decided not to take radiation, opted for cannabis oil, and she was told she only had 6 months to live. How long ago was that?
That was in July of 2011, and I just got the all clear again.
Yeah, so 4.5 years ago.
Yeah, yes it is.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. We'll take a break and come back. Welcome back. We're talking to Corrie Yelland. She's a Victoria. You live in Victoria, right?
I do.
Yeah, she's a cancer survivor. 4.5 years ago, she was told she only had 6 months to live. I want to read... I've had this for a number of months, and I've been waiting for a time to use it. It's a quote from Ernest Krebs. He is an American biochemist, lived in the U.S. from 1911 to 1996. He said, chemotherapy and radiotherapy will make the ancient method of drilling holes in a patient's head to permit the escape of demons look relatively advanced. Toxic chemotherapy is a hoax. The doctors who use it are guilty of premeditated murder, and the use of cobalt and other methods of cancer treatment effectively closes the door on cure. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Let's go to the phones and talk to Mandy. Hi, Mandy.
Hi.
Hi. Mandy, do you have a question?
Pardon me?
Do you have a question for Corrie?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Corrie. She's
Mandy.
been a great impact. Hi.
Hi. Go ahead. Doing? I'm great. Go ahead and tell Ian about Cheyenne.
Oh, I have a 3-year-old daughter that was diagnosed with neuroblastoma when she was 18 months. They did all the the chemotherapy and surgeries, and nothing worked, and they sent her home in early 2014. I got in contact with Corrie, and she led me in the direction I needed to be, and Cheyenne got on cannabis, and her tumor has been stable for 2 years. She's doing amazing, and we've done it all naturally.
Yeah.
She's 4 years old.
4 years old. Does she still have the tumor?
She does, yes.
Yeah. I can hear her in the background.
Yeah, she's been stable ever since starting cannabis. It's been a real godsend.
So she takes the cannabis oil, does she?
Yes.
How do you give it to her?
Just the same as Corrie did, on a little piece of food.
Oh, okay.
You just take it quick and get it gone.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we should mention to Ian that finally Cheyenne's kidney is starting to function as a result of being on oil.
Oh, yeah, it's her kidney. She had a small kidney, and that's starting to grow now, and everything is just going great, and it's all thanks to Corrie leading us in the direction.
Yeah. What do your doctors say about it, Mandy?
Our oncologist told me it wouldn't work, shut me down. They don't even put us in the same room as the other people anymore. But when we went for scans last month and everything came back stable, he came into the room smiling and actually even started asking more about cannabis treatment.
Oh, interesting.
Which was a huge turnaround from what he used to be like.
Yeah. So it sounds like it's an educational program for the conventional medical community.
Yes, it would. I wish they would use it a lot more often instead of all the toxic chemotherapy and the radiation, the surgeries.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I can hear her in the background. Thanks, Mandy.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate your
Thanks,
call.
Mandy.
Yeah, it sounds like her little girl.
Little girl.
Yeah.
She was very ill when she was sent home. It was pretty bleak looking, and the difference in her is just incredible.
You said something initially, which I didn't know, about you contacted a doctor initially in Italy who said they've been using cannabis oil there for quite some time.
Cannabinoids.
Cannabinoids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it was nothing new for them.
No.
But it's new for us.
It's new for us, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Machulam in Israel, they give cannabis in all sorts of ways to, even in the old folks' homes, to the Alzheimer patients. It's widespread use. Dr. Manuel Guzman in Spain has done some incredible work on brain tumors and cannabis oil. It's amazing what can happen when those two are combined.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you feel today?
Physically?
Yeah. I mean, you had a heart surgery,
Yeah.
you had cancer, you were on painkillers.
Yeah.
The quality of life must have been horrible.
Oh, it was horrible, yeah. I wake up in the morning racked in pain, take painkillers all night, day, couldn't wait to go to sleep, take a sleeping pill, wake up 2 hours later in agony, get on my patio, rock back and forth crying, waiting for morning to come, and go, okay, I made it through another night. And that was my life for almost 5 years. Mm-hmm. And this has just totally changed my life.
How soon from the time you started the cannabis oil till you actually felt something improving? Was it a week, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
Were you during that interim period, the 2 week period, were you doubtful it would work?
No. I wasn't. I think because I just knew that if anything was going to work, it was going to be this. So although I didn't think necessarily that it would get rid of the cancer, I kept saying to myself, oh, if it even just keeps it at bay,
mm-hmm.
even if it keeps it at bay, then I'll consider this successful.
Yeah. You just wanted to live, but you wanted to have a better quality of life than you
absolutely.
were. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Has it had any impact on your heart because you had a heart operation? Do you know?
I think so. I do know that it can cause your blood pressure to drop. So lots of people who are on blood pressure medication are able to get off of their blood pressure medication. In fact, I say, show me a disease condition this doesn't help. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. It's absolutely amazing.
What have other people told you about their use of cannabis oil?
Well, as we were talking about in the break, I said all along that if this worked, I'd spend the rest of my life telling people about it. So I talked to hundreds and hundreds of people a week. And some of the experiences they've had on cannabis oil is just amazing. I had a woman contact me 6 weeks ago with a husband with 22 brain tumors, one on his clavicle, one in his brainstem, on his adrenals, and on his lymph nodes. And they had sent him home to die, and they gave him 2 weeks. He went for a scan the other day. This has been 5 weeks, and he's gone from 22 brain tumors down to 8. The one in the brainstem is gone. The one on the collarbone, clavicle is gone. And he's up on roofing. So hardly ready to die tomorrow. Mm-hmm.
Corrie, why do you think there is such a resistance within the medical community to the use of cannabis oil? There's resistance and suspicion.
I think it's about big pharma. I think it's all about the almighty dollar. In Canada, to use cannabis oil and clear yourself of cancer is somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000, just ballparkish, okay? Mm-hmm. So compare that to the cost and the money of all the chemotherapy, drugs, et cetera. I know we have a different system than in the States, where apparently you're worth $300,000 the moment you're diagnosed. You're worth $300,000. I'm sure it's relatively the same up here. We just have a different healthcare system. So it's all about the pharmacies, pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I was reading, I think I was reading this morning that the cost of cancer drugs around the world is worth $100 billion a year. to the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's strictly about money.
It is about money.
Yeah. I'm interested, though, that why the medical community. I mean, you've talked to a couple of doctors who have indicated that they were opposed to it initially, but once they saw the results, they came around. Before you answer this, let's get one more call in and talk to Paul. Hi, Paul.
Well, hi there, and I just tuned in. I'm actually pulling to the side now because I've got another story. In fact, I'd heard so many wonderful things about cannabinoids, and I have COPD, and I was told that this could really have some very beneficial effect. Quite simply, I listened to this, and I went down to a place on Gorge Road. I picked up 3 tablets of cannabis oil, and I said, please make sure there's no THC or anything. I don't want to get high. I just want to take this stuff to make me feel better. I took it on a Monday night before I went to bed, 1 tablet, and she said, well, what do you want, 75 millimeters or 125? I said, no, give me the lowest dose possible. I took it on a Monday night. I woke up in the middle of the night, absolutely stoned, hallucinating. I was laughing hysterically and then depressed. It took 3 days to get this out of my system. I have no idea what was in that tablet. I still have 2 of them left. They cost me $5 each. But I was absolutely horrified by the effect. Now, I don't know whether your guest has ever had any experience of this, but, I mean, it was just terrifying what happened. For 3 days, in fact, my wife had to stay the next day to make sure that I was okay. She had to take the day off work. And it took 3 days before I stopped feeling dizzy, 2 weeks before slight nausea went away. So I don't know what was in that tablet.
Yeah, I wonder if they gave you the wrong stuff. Interesting. Got to run, Paul. Thank you very much for your story. I can't respond to that because we don't know what was in the tablet.
No, we don't. No. But obviously, you want to start out small. I mean, the youngest person that I've helped coach through this to their cure is 2 months. The oldest was 86.
Yeah.
You start tiny, build up.
Corrie, thanks for coming in.
You are so welcome.
Corrie Yelland.